Hello class, my name is Joe Giron. During this video, I will be talking a little bit about cohort study and how it is used in research. My title is Cohort Study Approach in Initial Surveys. First, let's look at some definition of cohort. Cohort is defined as a group of people who are similar or in some way or another. Therefore, in cohort study, such groups are followed or observed throughout a period of time in an effort to determine or discover certain facts about a certain disease. An example of cohort study would be when a disease occurs, why a certain disease occurs, what may or may not have contributed to its occurrence. The type of groups with similarities could include groups of a particular club, students at a particular school, or employees at a certain job who share the same environment but have different levels of exposure to risk factors. Let's look at the different types of cohort studies. Our text mentions 3 types of cohort studies that are common in research. They are prospective cohort studies, retrospective cohort studies, and longitudinal cohort studies. Measurement of time. Each study has 2 measurements of time. The first measurement is called survey, which is a baseline measurement. The second one is a follow-up. It is an assessment that involves collecting data or information from the participant to determine exposure. Both measures aid researchers in determining what each subject was exposed to prior to the onset of a disease or condition. Prospective cohort. Occurrence of new diseases is 2 subjects based on exposure status. This particular study consists of 2 groups, one having been exposed and the other having not been exposed to a certain risk factor. Both groups share the same environment or population. We can refer back to the example previously mentioned. It compares rates to determine if certain exposure contributes to a certain disease or incident. Therefore, all participants must be free from the disease at the baseline of the study. The baseline measurement is from present to future. Retrospective cohort study. This type of study is somewhat similar to the prospective cohort except for the baseline data collection. It monitors from past to present. Retrospective cohort is conducted when researchers collect data from the past, when they have need to investigate the history of a group to match their finding with present data. An example of this would be subjects who are born at the same hospital or the same birth weight or has similar complications during birth. Longitudinal cohort study baselines from present to future. The subjects not selected on exposure status. The longitudinal cohort study is based on exposure, and it has 2 methods that are used. Mixed population, in which all participants start at the same time and no one is allowed to join after its enforcement. The fixed population also has a deadline or stopping point. The other method used is called a dynamic population, in which the enrollment continues throughout the study to replace subjects who are no longer a participant or who are considered a dropout. And this could apply to someone who for some reason no longer participates in the study, someone who dies during the midst of the process of the study. If these participants were not replaced, the study would end without desired result due to lack of participation. There are a few things that need to be considered when conducting each of these studies. First, the retrospective cohort. First thing that needs to be done is to gain access to existing records. Sometimes this is done without any problem, but under certain circumstances, there are situations when the researcher has to make personal contact with individuals in order to get the data they need to conduct the study. In this situation, the researcher needs to determine what method would be used to contact the participant, and this could be done by phone, by letter, or by face-to-face interviews. In the prospective cohort, the individual group will first need to be identified. In the longitudinal cohort, the population will need to be selected, and the source of data collection will also need to be determined. Analysis measurements. There are several types of measurement used in cohort studies. They are incident rate. Jacobs defined incident rate as the number of new cases of a disease in a given population during a specific period. We will look at an example of this later in the presentation. Person time is actually the amount of time in years an individual is part of a study before they are no longer part of a study as a result of being diagnosed, becoming dropout, or deceased. Person time can be calculated as a group by adding all participant years of service to the study. An example will be explained later in the presentation as well. Excess risk or attributable risk is the absolute difference in the incident rate. Other measurements that are used in cohort study are attributable risk percentage, rate ratio, and 95% confidence interval. Here we have an example of incident rate, the number of reported new cases divided by total population. And in this example, we have a total of 60 participants with 10 cases being reported. You simply divide the number of cases that have been reported by the number of participants that you had. That will give you your incident rate, and in this case, this is 166 per 1,000. This is an example. Person time. Person time measures different length in time. This example of participants who were diagnosed with a particular disease during the process of the study. If you started out with 10 participants, one was diagnosed within 2 years. That individual gave 2-year person time to the study. If later on, two individuals were diagnosed within 3 years, then each of those individuals had rendered 3 years person time each, which total 6-year person time among both. By adding all of the person time years together, give us a total of 8-year person time for participant diagnosed with the disease. This is another example of person time for active individual not diagnosed with the disease during the process of the study. In this example, if you had 20 participants, after 5 years, 15 are still active. You would simply multiply your 15 active members by the number of years the study had been conducted, and that would give you total 75 person time for non-diagnosed participants. Excess risk or attributable risk, the absolute difference in the incident rate, percentage of exposed minus the percentage of the unexposed within a group or population. References for the material and information included in this PowerPoint presentation come from the Introduction to Health Research Method, a Practice Guide by Jacobson. This concludes my PowerPoint presentation on cohort studies.